times and we're undoing that. Why does the message have to only be about this is a slowing economy?
Kelly, what the Federal Reserve is doing is what they always do. And they're looking through the rearview mirror. Investors are not doing that. Investors are trying to look ahead. That's why you've got two different messages. And when you look through the rearview mirror, like Bob Pisani was talking about, some of the consumer discretionary, the numbers from retail are pretty good. You look at the economy, you look at employment, you name the variable. It's not bad, and it's hard to say something such as, we're headed towards a real problem in the economy and we're going to reduce rates 2, 3, or 4 times. They're not going to say that. They're going to say they're going to imply, as they have, that they may reduce rates once. But investors are seeing something entirely different. They're looking ahead and they say things are probably going to play out a lot more serious than the Federal Reserve currently is telling us. Okay, Paul, same question to you. What's interesting to me about this idea that the 30-year yield is now less than the dividend yield is that the last time that happened was not 2006 or 2007. It was 2009. We were coming out of recession the last time this happened. It was not some sort of warning sign of anything back then. If anything, it was a sign of a major bull run in stocks.
Yeah, I'd be careful. We'd be careful about too many historical comparisons here, Kelly. We agree that the market is seeing something worse than what the Fed is seeing, but we would venture to offer that what the Fed is seeing, or what the markets rather are seeing, is that the global conditions are getting worse. Not so much that the U.S. conditions are getting worse, and that those conditions will continue to deteriorate. And in light of that expected deterioration, the Fed is still too tight. Even if they take out that final rate hike from late 2018, the dollar is still too strong. That's a sign that dollar liquidity is still too tight. They're going to have to cut more than once.
So let me translate this as well to what you guys think investors should do here. Paul, you like utilities and real estate. Why do you like them at these levels? They're quite high. They're the best performing parts of the market.
Yeah, we went back to neutral from being unfavorable because we think that yields probably have further to fall, and that's going to dominate the more negative fundamental conditions for those two sectors. What we really like here is information technology. We like consumer discretionary. We also like financials.
All right. Hugh, last word to you. What do you like?
You got to move towards some defense in your portfolio. If you can't sleep at night, reduce your exposure to equities some, and in the equity component of your portfolio, do a little bit of what Paul was talking about, is build some defense by overweighting consumer staples and also overweight utilities. And don't forget dividends. Dividends are a real cushion in a bear market. I'm just saying, build defense.
I know we're saying dividends are front and center today. They're more than the 30-year yield. Thank you both, gentlemen, very much. Hugh Johnson and Paul Christopher.
Pleasure.
Now to Purdue Pharma, the maker of OxyContin reportedly offering up to $12 billion to settle thousands of lawsuits relating to prescription opioids. The settlement could lead the company to declare bankruptcy and restructure, with the Sackler family no longer in charge. This comes just 2 days after Johnson & Johnson was ordered to pay $500 million to Oklahoma for its involvement in the opioid crisis. For more, let me bring in Lenny Bernstein. He's health and medicine reporter for The Washington Post, and CNBC's own Meg Terrell. And Meg, this is a pretty extraordinary offering by the Sackler family, but can it go far enough?
That's a great question. So this is not a done deal. It's proposed. $10 to $12 billion sounds like a lot of money, but we are hearing some folks say they're surprised by potentially how small that is, considering Purdue's role or alleged role in the opioid crisis and just the marquee sort of spot they've held there with OxyContin. So will this be $10 to $12 billion, and how does that sort of translate into what we might see from everybody else? Those are the questions that everybody's asking.
Lenny, how should we think about the potential exposure for Purdue, but also for the rest of the companies in this space? What does the $10 to $12 billion offer mean to you in terms of possible financial outcomes?
Well, first off, just think about how complicated this is going to be for them to arrange. They have to satisfy the 2,000 plaintiffs of the big federal suit in Ohio. And then there are 40 some odd states across the United States that also want a cut of this money. And Purdue has said for months and months that all the liabilities that it faces could put it into bankruptcy. They've made no secret of that whatsoever. So their exposure is very, very high, and what they need is a global settlement of all the claims,
right?
Which is like herding cats.
Right.
As for others, they're much bigger, but they face the same issue.
Right. And so, Meg, Purdue's been early. They were first early in Oklahoma to settle as well. The company said not only would it file for bankruptcy, it would turn itself into a public beneficiary trust that would steer any profits from drug sales, including OxyContin, to the plaintiffs.
Right.
I mean, so again, is that going to be enough? Even the sums that you had previously mentioned, some people are speculating here, could be hundreds of billions of dollars, right? If there's this massive multi-state settlement, this would be a drop in the bucket in terms of that.
Yeah, we had heard numbers of more than $100 billion potentially for this global settlement if all of the defendants, which are more than a dozen, came to the table and were able to reach this. But again, the herding cats issue of that on both the defendants and the plaintiff's side is a problem. Now, in terms of whether the $10 to $12 billion in all its various forms from Purdue is enough, the other question might be, well, can you get any more? If they're threatening to go bankrupt, and they did that in Oklahoma as well, they might be saying here, take this, or it's going to get a lot more complicated. This might be the best you can get.
Yeah, it's a great point, Lydia. I wonder if people realize, well, wait a minute, you're saying you're going to go bankrupt and kind of implying there's only so much money left. Well, what happens if more is demanded of Purdue?
Well, if more is demanded of Purdue and they can't come close to meeting it, then I think they do go to bankruptcy court. And if they do go to bankruptcy court, then the plaintiffs and the state AGs have a big problem, because then they're going to be lining up to take what they can get. The bankruptcy court's going to be in charge. Now, they will probably spend the next decade chasing the Sacklers and trying to get their personal funds. But, I think both sides really understand that it's in their interests to come to some kind of an agreement now so that the plaintiffs get something and Purdue gets itself out of this.
And finally, Lenny, where does that leave Johnson & Johnson, which has much deeper pockets, and like people rob banks because that's where the money is, are people going to continue to go after them because they say, when we want more money to come out of this, and that's where the money is?
Well, that's really a great question right now, and I can give you about 5 different theories that people I've been talking to have been saying. But think about this: Johnson & Johnson only put 1% of the drugs consumed in Oklahoma. They produced 1% of the drugs. What happens when you start to look in other places where they may have a larger role in drug production? Or what if you're another company that puts a lot of drugs on the street, like a Mallinckrodt? Some of those people have much more culpability if you believe the theory that Judge Bachman put in his ruling in Oklahoma.
Sure, and that's why we saw such a big initial reaction in the shares on this. For now, thanks to both of you. Appreciate it very much. Lenny Bernstein and our own Meg Terrell. Now, with investors focusing on falling global yields, that trend was certainly evident in today's 5-year auction of Treasury notes, which just wrapped up. The yield, 1.365%. If you think the 2s and 10s, by the way, are neck and neck, the 5's been way lower in terms of yield for a while. And this is the lowest yield for that in almost 3 years. Demand was the highest in almost 1 year. And here's what's still ahead on the exchange.
Coming up, the tariff hangover. We'll talk to a distiller whose business in the EU came to a complete stop as tariffs took hold. Plus, your move, Netflix. The competition is ratcheting up for the streaming giant, and investors are noticing as the stock falls into bear market. Do they need a new strategy? And Peloton files its IPO and says music, yes, music, may be an overhang. This is The Exchange on CNBC.
Do you have concerns about
hemorrhoids? You talk to your GP, but you don't really get anywhere because the NHS has limited surgery for hemorrhoids, so you go on suffering in silence. Okay, maybe not so silent. It's time to speak to Xroid. They specialize in a new, fast, safe and effective procedure for hemorrhoids with no downtime, and the procedure takes just 30 minutes or less. Don't be one of the 8 million people in the UK suffering in almost silence. Get back to what you love doing. Xroid. Be kind to your behind. For free advice on hemorrhoids, text KIND to 81156.
I'm getting strawberry notes and a flutter of sweetness without adding sugar. Clever. It is. Yazoo Kids chooses a lactose-reduced milk that enhances flavour without adding sugar or artificial sweeteners. Milky deliciousness and packed full of goodness. Very clever. Strawberry Yazoo Kids supports change for life. Yazoo, shake it up! Contains naturally occurring sugars. Milk is a source of calcium, which is needed for the maintenance of normal bones.
Did you know Currys PC World do business? Saving your business up to 30% with mega deals on computers and printers, electricals, large screen TVs, and even more. Top brands like HP, Microsoft, Epson, Sony. And if you find it cheaper from any major retailer, we'll match it. Get these deals before they're gone. Must end soon. Visit your nearest store or pcworldbusiness.co.uk/megadeals. T's and C's apply. Excludes Inc. and third-party sellers. Visit website for price promise details. Claim within 7 days.
Dad, I'm bored.
Why don't you go and start your holiday homework?
Don't worry. This summer we've got loads of exciting activity ideas to keep the kids entertained without even having to leave London. Make the most of the sunshine and go on a bug hunt or even a treasure hunt and cool down with some homemade ice lollies. Look online for Asda Tour de Fun for even more exciting activity ideas. Go discover your fun side with Asda.
I didn't choose you. You chose me. When you broke from the crowd and pawed at my knee, soon you'll be feeling right at home. You'll be a bit unsure, but you're free to roam. What's good to chew? What's nice to nibble? Wet food, dry food, tin food, kibble? You might sometimes be cheeky, not always wise, but I know I found love in those puppy dog eyes. Join the free VIP Puppy Club from Pets at Home for advice and exclusive offers, including 10% off your first shop in store. Visit petsathome.com/puppy club or join in store. T's and C's apply.
Welcome back. Shares of spirit maker Brown-Forman are down today after the company missed sales estimates for its fiscal first quarter, saying the drag from tariffs hurt its profit margins, especially in European countries where it's dealing with the EU's 25% tariff on U.S. whiskey. My next guest is also feeling the pain from that. In fact, his European whiskey sales have dropped to zero as a result of these tariffs. I'm joined now by Scott Harris, the founder and manager of Catoctin Creek Distillery in Virginia. Scott, welcome to you. And what happened to your European business?
It kind of went away after the tariffs were announced.
Wow. So how much of your sales was it just a couple of years ago?
So in 2017, we had about 11% of our total revenue was European business, and that's a strategy that we had chosen to help expand our growth since U.S. market is pretty competitive. And then the tariffs in 2018 pretty much decimated that, and we ended up with zero in 2018.
So have you had to lay anybody off, or what's been the knock-on effect of that?
Well, no, we haven't had to lay anybody off, and that's a great blessing out of this, but we haven't been able to grow as fast. So we were planning to grow, add some more equipment, add about $1 million worth of more equipment to increase our production levels, and add more people that would come along with that. And all of those plans had to be put on hold because of the slowdown that we saw from Europe.
And those tariffs took you, like everybody, by surprise. In fact, as I understand it, you have barrels that are ready to go, but why can't that product be sold in the U.S.?
Oh, it can, but one of the problems is a lot of times people will come up to me and tell me that, well, why don't you just sell more in the U.S.? And I say, well, it's easy to say, but it's harder to do. You know, the competitive landscape here in the U.S. is quite dramatically different than when we started 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we were, one of only a handful of distilleries in Virginia. Now there are over 70 in the nation. There are easily thousands of distilleries in the United States now. So you go to a new state like, say, Nevada or someplace, and they've got a bunch of distilleries already there. So that was one of the reasons we went to Europe, was that there was a lower barrier to entry, and culturally it was a very simple kind of match for what we were already making.
Sure, and there's a strong demand in Europe for American-made whiskey. As much as that has, been a nice trend over the last couple of years, just in the past year, our whiskey exports to the EU are down 20% because of these tariffs. Can you get any information from regulators or anybody about whether that market might be reopening to you anytime soon? Or are there any other measures you could take, like slashing price, maybe to save some sales in order to keep that market open?
Yeah, I think your Brown-Forman numbers were really interesting. It's affecting big companies and small alike. And, a small company like us, we don't have deep reserves of whiskey or money to do that. So for the past year, we've been slashing prices and paying the tariffs ourselves to try to, sort of maintain whatever market share we have over there. But that's a very expensive prospect. Essentially, we're losing money on all European sales that we might have. And we can't do that forever. We're a very small family-run company. And so those are temporary measures. As I've said before, we're kind of treading water, and the only real relief comes if they just resolve the situation, get back to the negotiating table, and resolve these tariffs.
And what do you think happens if these tariffs stay in place the way they are? They're 25% tariffs if they stay in place for another couple of years for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think it's very bad. We were just in the midst, the USA, we're just in the midst of a cocktail renaissance. And all of our American crafted bourbon and rye was becoming very, very popular here in the US, but also in places like Europe and in Asia. And you'd go into bars in Berlin or Milan, and people would be making these classic sort of Prohibition-era cocktails with American spirits because they were fundamental in that. And all of that now has come to a screeching halt. And in fact, a lot of European producers and producers from India, producers from Japan, the UK are all now making similar products to what we're making over here. And so we're losing not just market share, but we're also losing mind share. The longer we're not in that market, the longer it's not going to matter for us.
So true. Trends are fickle. And like you said, you were right in the middle of a great one. Scott, thanks for telling us what's happened. We really appreciate it. It's really important insight. Scott Harris is the founder and manager of Catoctin Creek Distillery in Virginia. Coming up, Google is reportedly saying goodbye China and good morning Vietnam for some of its production. We'll look at why Vietnam specifically could be the key to their growth. Plus, former Denver Broncos running back Terrell Davis says CBD is a game changer and it could have kept him in the game longer. He's now selling a CBD performance drink, and he'll join me live in studio to talk about that ahead.
Hemorrhoids. You talk to your GP, but you don't really get anywhere because the NHS has limited surgery for hemorrhoids, so you go on suffering in silence. Okay, maybe not so silent. It's time to speak to Xroid. They specialise in a new, fast, safe and effective procedure for hemorrhoids with no downtime, and the procedure takes just 30 minutes or less. Don't be one of the 8 million people in the UK suffering in almost silence. Get back to what you love doing. Xroid. Be kind to your behind. For free advice on hemorrhoids, text KIND to 81156.
No. No. No.
What are you doing?
I don't like any of our preset radio stations. We need a new car.
With the Jaguar E-Pace at $299 a month on personal contract hire, you'll find a reason.
That's better. And it's a Jaguar.
Initial rental £3,588. 48-month term. Subject to status. 8,000 miles per annum. Excess mileage and return conditions apply. No ownership option. Ends 30th of September. Participating retailers only. Jaguar contract hire.
Strength and things. Strength and things. Strength and things. Strings and things. Strings and things and strings, strings, strings and things. Strings, strings, strings and things. Strings, strings, strings and things. Strings and
Now there's a whole range of strings and things called strings and things, including cheese strings, yollies, and new cheese shapes. Find them all in the cheese and yogurt aisle.
Strings and things.
I didn't choose you, you chose me. When you broke from the crowd and pawed at my knee, soon you'll be feeling right at home. You'll be a bit unsure, but you're free to roam. What's good to chew? What's nice to nibble? Wet food, dry food, tin food, kibble? You might sometimes be cheeky, not always wise, but I know I found love in those puppy dog eyes. Join the free VIP Puppy Club from Pets at Home for advice and exclusive offers, including 10% off your first shop in store. Visit petsathome.com/puppy club or join in store. T's and C's apply.
Welcome back to the exchange. Here are some of the movers this hour. Shares of Autodesk are lower despite beating on the top and bottom line in its earnings report. The company lowering full-year guidance due to trade and economic uncertainty, and that's dragging the shares down more than 8%. Papa John's is higher on an upgrade to buy at Stifel. The investment bank bullish on the company's new CEO, Rob Lynch, also raising its price target on the stock all the way up to $60 from $42. Papa John's up nearly 6% to just over $50 this afternoon. And Deutsche Bank telling investors to buy shares of JetBlue, saying its 15% pullback over the past 3 weeks provides an attractive entry point. Also notes JetBlue has a good balance sheet, a solid market position. JBlue shares up just under 2%. And now to Sue Herrera for a CNBC News Update. Hi, Sue.
Hello, Kelly. Hello, everyone. Here's what's happening at this hour. Forecasters now say Tropical Storm Dorian could become a Category 3 hurricane before reaching the U.S. mainland. The storm is verging on hurricane strength and battering parts of the Caribbean. Dorian is on track to hit the southeast United States coast early next week. The FBI says federal agents have raided multiple locations, including the Detroit area home of United Auto Workers Union President Gary Jones. It's part of a multi-year probe regarding alleged corruption within the U.S. auto industry. The UAW says it has, quote, fully cooperated with investigators and saw no need for the search warrants. Toyota announcing it is recalling 191,000 cars in North America and Japan. The automaker saying the airbags in the vehicles affected may not inflate properly in a crash. The recall covers certain 2003 through 2008 Corolla sedans, as well as 2005 through 2008 Matrix hatchbacks. And here's some good news for those of you who like wine. A new study out of the UK says red wine, in moderation, could be good for your gut. A team of researchers from the King's College in London says it found drinkers of red wine saw a higher diversity of helpful bacteria in the gut, thanks to the micronutrients in the skin of red grapes. Cheers. That's the news update this hour. Cal, I'll send it back to you.
Sue, thanks very, very much. Here's what's still ahead on the exchange.
Coming up, it's the battle of the locals versus the tourists for Tiffany. Peloton opens its book to potential investors as it gets set for an IPO. Another company is looking to move out of China. And the chicken sandwich wars intensify. It's all ahead in Rapid Fire.
We don't sell annuities.
Hemorrhoids. You talk to your GP, but you don't really get anywhere because the NHS has limited surgery for hemorrhoids, so you go on suffering in silence. Okay, maybe not so silent. It's time to speak to Xroid. They specialize in a new, fast, safe and effective procedure for hemorrhoids with no downtime, and the procedure takes just 30 minutes or less. Don't be one of the 8 million people in the UK suffering in almost silence. Get back to what you love doing. Xroid. Be kind to your behind. For free advice on hemorrhoids, text KIND to 81156.
Live big and spend less on the brands you adore. And dine by the waterside. Who could want more? Lap up the savings as much as the view with Ted Baker, Hackett, Nike and Coach too. Lock Fine and Five Guys make it a date. You can shop, meet and eat every weekday till late. So sit back, unwind and let style lead the way. And give yourself a different day at Gunwharf Quays. Waterfront outlet shopping.
I'm getting strawberry notes and a flutter of sweetness without adding sugar. Clever. It is. Yazoo Kids uses a lactose-reduced milk that enhances flavour without adding sugar or artificial sweeteners. Milky deliciousness and packed full of goodness. Very clever. Strawberry Yazoo Kids supports change for life. Yazoo, shake it up! Contains naturally occurring sugars. Milk is a source of calcium, which is needed for the maintenance of normal bones.
At Tesco, we can pop our pasta in your Astra, our red Leicester in your Fiesta, or our mayo in your Mondeo. All you need to do is try Click and Collect. Just go to tesco.com, order your shopping, then click and collect. With the minimum basket spend now only £25. And if you fancy something a little more exotic, we can even put our pad thai in your Qashqai. Try Click and Collect at tesco.com. Every little helps. Selected larger stores. Booking charge may apply. See online for full terms and conditions.
This summer at Chessington World of Adventures Resort, answer the call of the wild. With over 1,000 of the world's most amazing animals and over 40 of the wildest rides and attractions. Meet the Gruffalo and all your favourite characters at the Gruffalo Summer Party and so much more. Book early and save up to 40% at Chessington.com. It's Britain's wildest adventure for all the family.
On your daily commute, on your Alexa device, Google Assistant, Sirius XM 112, tune in, and the CNBC mobile app. Wherever you go, CNBC.
Chuckling without me. Let's catch you up on a few stories that should be on your radar today. Welcome back. It's time for Rapid Fire. Here to break down the headlines are Robert Frank, Contessa Brewer, and Bill Griffith, and it's great to have you all here. First up, let's talk a little Tiffany's, which beat on earnings but missed on revenue in second quarter report this morning. The share's hanging in there after it reaffirmed its previously lowered guidance for the year, but this is the sort of important tell. Sales fell short of expectations last quarter, the jeweler citing Hong Kong protests and less tourist spending here in the U.S. as reasons, and that's the same thing we heard from Macy's, Robert.
Yeah, and Tiffany's benefited from the fact that China is repatriating its luxury spending. They want the Chinese to spend on their luxuries in China.
Home,
so
right.
they cut all the tariffs, they cut all the taxes, and made it easier. Tiffany's got a lot of new stores in China. They had strong growth in China.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that hadn't offset the Chinese who used to come to the U.S. and Europe to buy Tiffany products there.
And it reminds me of your other story today, which is talking about how there's a lot of high-end sales that have been lagging. We know the real estate effect, art. I mean, anywhere you'd see the Chinese buyer show up and be sort of the marginal spender, that's now going away, I guess.
Hong Kong is the biggest market in the world for jewelry, for wine, for watches. And that's going to start hitting those sectors and the upper end. And we have the fact that the U.S. consumer, especially in the high end, is just feeling a little bit anxious right now about the markets and global growth. So they're not spending like they used to.
I thought it was interesting that the CEO said they lost 6 selling days in Hong Kong because of the unrest and the protests. Partly because, listen, high-end customers are, if they live in Hong Kong, they're staying home. They're not risking going out and getting caught up in the
this is
middle
going
of
on
that
much
madness.
longer and in a much more serious way, I think, than most people even in Hong Kong expect.
And the other theme I think that you should pay attention to, and you mentioned that Macy's had said it, but it goes beyond retail. We're hearing it from casinos. We're hearing it from
hotels.
That's right. That this issue of tourism taking a hit is problematic for Tiffany's. It's 12% of all U.S. sales are dependent on tourism dollars.
And that's what a combo of, there's a specific China issue where they seem to be, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, discouraging people somewhat from coming here and spending.
I think there's
the
cultural pressure.
Strong dollar issue. Yep. There's even safety issues. I mean, the other embassies, we have mass shootings. We've talked about this before. Right. They warn people about traveling to the U.S.
I was going to mention the 12% number, but she stole it from me. But I get hotels. I get some of the other industries that depend on tourism. But name me another industry besides like jewelry where tourism makes up 12% of your sales here in the United States. I mean,
I was almost going to say the college industry, but that's probably
and real estate, right?
The Chinese consumer is a third of all luxury spending, and half of that was done overseas.
Wow.
So that for all these companies, LVMH, Louis Vuitton, you got Richemont, you got Kering, all these companies depend a lot on that traveling Chinese consumer.
We had kids that stayed with us on a student exchange program years ago from Germany, and they loved it when the euro was stronger than the dollar, so they could get a bargain.
Yeah.
But the dollar is stronger now, and yet we still have tourists coming over here to buy goods.
Right. At least they're still doing it, but it's clearly fraying around the edges.
Yep.
Up next, Peloton taking its first step towards going public by filing its S-1 paperwork. The company will list on the NASDAQ under the ticker PTON. A lot of interesting business model nuggets in there. We're bringing Leslie Picker for that, and they got less revenue, Leslie, from the subscription business than I thought.
Yeah, only 20% interestingly from subscriptions. The remaining 80% comes from the sale of the hardware products, the bikes, the treadmills. They don't break out exactly how much of that goes toward bikes versus treadmills, but the treadmills were launched in 2018, and they do say that a significant portion of their revenue do come from those bikes that they're known for. And I don't know about you guys, but have you ever taken a cycling class without music before?
Right, that's the big question.
No.
I've never taken taking a cycling
big
class.
question,
Well, there's that too.
because they're actually one of the interesting risk factors in their prospectus centers around this idea of licensing and how much it costs to pay those royalties. They were actually accused of engaging in copyright infringement by using certain songs without necessary licenses, and so they're undergoing this ongoing litigation surrounding this. They say they plan to defend the claims that were made against them, noting that litigation is, of course, uncertain, and that's something that investors should be aware of. But as you dig into their financials, it's clear that as more and more people, as they get more subscribers and members onto their platform, they are paying more in those royalty fees, that it's not just a fixed cost that they have year after year. It is correlated to the number of people on their platform.
It's not a great analogy. It just reminds me a little bit of how Uber came to be simply because of the iPhone. I mean, it's just that you can be so reliant, but that did not have the same risks, obviously, in terms of them having to pay rent.
I just wish that in an earnings conference call, a CEO would be as candid as they are when they file an S1. The S1 tells you the bad news as much as it tells you the good news.
You just have to dig through it a little bit.
You know, they're saying if we can't get the licensing for some of these songs in here, that's going to hurt our business.
We may never be profitable.
I was surprised. The bike is $2,000. And they're losing money. They're losing $200 million a year for the first half on around $900 million in revenue.
It's a great point.
So
what cost would the bike have to be?
You can't make money on a $2,000 stationary bike?
Plus, you're selling the bike one time. It would seem to me, Leslie, over time, like if I were investing in this, I would want the opposite to happen, right? The hardware goes down to 20%, subscriptions are 80%. At least then you have rising costs that can offset the cost of the music.
Right.
What's interesting, too, is the stickiness of their platform. They say that 92% of people who have ever purchased one of their products, being bike, treadmill, etc., have stayed with it and are still subscribers to this day. But the bulk of those expenses, and we saw this double year over year, came from sales and marketing, which you see a lot of times for these companies as they prepare for IPOs. You do see a huge tick up in sales and marketing, research and development. Also a big thing for them as they continue to need to innovate and create new products to keep people in that Peloton family.
No, we've all heard from people who use them.
We have one, and my daughter loves the scenic rides through Hawaii. She does that every morning.
I used to do that on the treadmill. I do the mountain trail. Leslie, thanks very much. We appreciate it. Leslie Picker.
I watch old movies.
Can you watch that on your?
I just do it on an iPad.
Yeah, but are you cycling while watching?
On the treadmill.
Yeah, well, see, there you go.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
Create my own. You know?
Up next, Google is reportedly shifting production of the Pixel phone from China to Vietnam to build a lower-cost supply chain. Google allegedly started converting an old Nokia factory to be able to manufacture the Pixels this summer. According to reports, the move is both because of higher Chinese labor costs and also, obviously, the ongoing trade war between the U.S. and China.
Creating a lot of demand here for skilled labor in Vietnam. And what we heard from Carl Quintanilla when he was just there is that this mad rush to try and find someplace outside of China and avoid not only the tariffs, but the increasing labor costs and the uncertainty that is surrounded with having this dictatorial government. It is an opportunity for Vietnam, but it's also a crush. One reason why it might be easier for Google is because it doesn't have that massive production line that, say, Apple does. It's a much smaller
And you're right.
scale.
It was interesting, and Carl highlighted this. I mean, there's not a ton of capacity in that country. So Google specifically went and kind of got this old Nokia facility with what they said were the skilled workers, and you wonder, I mean, people got to move quickly to snap those assets up.
Google is not a player in the smartphone business. I mean, they're like number 19 in the world at this point. So I think it's easier for them to make the move than it would be for an Apple, because the amount of the production, the capacity they would need would be far in excess of what Google's after right now. Google can go after a single factory and make that work, which apparently was already in progress there. I mean, they had one that was available and ready to go, so they could be ready by the end of the year. That's very quick.
Kelly's point is important because the capacity issue, you have to be in now because it's only 95 million people. China is, more than 10 times the size.
Right.
So at a certain point, pretty soon, Vietnam's going to be at capacity.
Yeah, and if I were one of these companies, I'd be acting fast.
Right.
Finally, and back in this country, if you want to try Popeye's new chicken sandwich, you better act fast because the fast food chain says it'll be sold out of them by the end of the week. This after rave reviews and a Twitter feud between Popeyes and Chick-fil-A essentially caused the sandwich to go viral. I mean, you know how this Twitter stuff is. Even fake chicken sandwiches are hot right now. KFC sold out of its Beyond Fried Chicken in less than 5 hours of its test at a single Atlanta location. There's your check on Beyond shares, just under 160.
What is it about chicken all of a sudden?
So can I read you this? This is the
thing?
New York Post this morning. I'll hold it up over here. They have Steve Cuozo does a lot of their food reviews. He is raving. He says Popeye's sandwich really is that good. He talks about how its ear is impossibly juicy, super tasty, cheap, buttermilk brine breast on a fresh brioche bun as thick as a wrist. I mean, you can't come up with more superlatives for this Popeye's chicken sandwich.
But then they ran out.
Well, that's why.
But it's coming back, though. This was a test market. It did well. Now they say it'll be back forever.
You know how much free media they got out of this on social?
Thanks to Chick-fil-A, by the way.
Well, yeah, Chick-fil-A did a huge favor, and now Panera is trying to get onto it. They said, "Oh, you ran out. Are you looking? You're following us, Popeye's chicken, because you're looking for chicken. We have some, and ours is organic."
But you know what? At the end of the day, I don't care however much traction they get for these viral campaigns. It has to taste good, and that's what's fascinating to me about this one. If Steve Cuozo's right, and this sandwich really does,
but it wouldn't have done that on its own. So you have rivalries. I used to cover Coke, and Gozueta said to me, the CEO, they said, if Pepsi didn't exist, I would have had to invent them.
There you go.
Because rivalries generate publicity, that action, that dynamic that people care about.
Oh, I love that.
Everyone was out saying, is this sandwich better? And social media accelerated that. Everyone wanted to see and share.
Fun. Yeah.
So it just exploded.
$65 million worth of Apex Marketing says $65 million worth of free media.
Thank you, Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
By the way, this fake chicken, I want to know, does it taste like chicken?
Where's our taste test, by the way? Aren't we supposed to have it all spread out? We're all supposed to have a bite.
We need an Atlanta correspondent who could have gotten there in the first 5 hours, apparently, or else there's no way of getting your paws on this.
He's happy to get on a plane.
He covered Coke.
For food, I'll go anywhere.
Fake beef I get. Vegetarians shy away from, and a lot of people shy away from red meat for health purposes.
Yeah.
But chicken is considered one of the healthy meats out there.
But maybe not fried
Unless
chicken.
it's buttermilk fried with pickles and mayonnaise.
But then again, no one's really saying the Beyond products are all that healthy either.
That's correct.
Thank you, guys. We'll have the sandwich next time.
Bon appetit.
Robert Frank, Contessa Brewer, and Bill Griffith. Coming up, Hall of Fame running back Terrell Davis says CBD could have extended his career. He's launched his own CBD line that he hopes will help others manage pain. He's making his way over. Join us live right here. We'll talk about it in studio next.
TD.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You brought the football.
I did. I brought you a football.
Do you bring it everywhere you go?
This is Giants football.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Was it from someone in the office?
See, that's funny. I thought you traded options.
Hemorrhoids. You talk to your GP, but you don't really get anywhere. Because the NHS has limited surgery for hemorrhoids, so you go on suffering in silence. Okay, maybe not so silent. It's time to speak to Xroid. They specialise in a new, fast, safe and effective procedure for hemorrhoids with no downtime. And the procedure takes just 30 minutes or less. Don't be one of the 8 million people in the UK suffering in almost silence. Get back to what you love doing. Xroid. Be kind to your behind. For free advice on hemorrhoids, text KIND to 81156.
I'm getting strawberry notes and a flutter of sweetness without adding sugar. Clever. It is. Yazoo Kids chooses a lactose-reduced milk that enhances flavour without adding sugar or artificial sweeteners. Milky deliciousness and packed full of goodness. Very clever. Strawberry Yazoo Kids supports change for life. Yazoo, shake it up! Contains naturally occurring sugars. Milk is a source of calcium, which is needed for the maintenance of normal bones.
Did you know Currys PC World do business? Saving your business up to 30% with mega deals on computers and printers, electricals, large screen TVs, and even more. Top brands like HP, Microsoft, Epson, Sony. And if you find it cheaper from any major retailer, we'll match it. Get these deals before they're gone. Must end soon. Visit your nearest store or pcworldbusiness.co.uk/megadeals. T's and C's apply. Excludes Inc. and third-party sellers. Visit website for price promise details. Claim within 7 days.
Fancy throwing something different on your barbecue this summer? At Asda, a pack of 2 cod fillets are only £3.19. And a 4-pack of Grower Selection sweet corn cobettes are just £1. Bring it home with Asda. Save money, live better. Selected stores online, subject to availability. Card 260 grams.
Welcome back. Recently retired Patriots tight end Rob Gronkowski announcing a new line of CBD products this week, adding to a growing list of athletes who are now getting involved in this space. In fact, my next guest saw this trend coming 2 years ago and co-founded Defy, a company that just released the first ever CBD-infused performance drink. Joining me now to talk about that, retiring early from the NFL, and what to expect this season is Terrell Davis. He's an NFL Hall of Famer running back with the Denver Broncos. It's great to have you here. Welcome.
Good to be here. Thank you very much.
So you had a lot of personal experience with CBD helping your migraines, your pain from sports. Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. Now, when I was playing, I didn't. So when I was playing, I didn't even know anything about CBD, didn't touch it, didn't understand it. But after I retired, I've been beat up for a long time. And so I had inflammation, I had pain in my knees.
And you were a running back. It's like the worst position. I mean, people talk or almost joke about how guys can make it a couple of years. They get so banged up. People talk about that with Saquon Barkley all the time.
Yeah.
Like, how long is his career going to be?
Well, that's why somebody like Zeke Elliott is holding out. Saquon is going to be there at some point where he has to do a new deal. Now, does he come in? So for me, it was like I played the game. I loved the game. But after the game, I was beat up. And I just couldn't find something that I was looking for to kind of get rid of the pain and try to feel normal again. Because as an athlete, you're used to performing at a high level, peak performance. And so you're always looking for something to give you that edge to make you feel good again. And so after I retired, about 2 years ago, as you mentioned, discovered CBD.
And you retired, this is also, you had injuries, you had a couple of knee surgeries at the end of your career, is that right? And so what happened? Did you try to come back? Did you end up giving up? I mean, what do you think when you see the announcements from guys like Andrew Luck this week who just say, it's not worth it for me anymore?
I understand 100% how Andrew Luck feels. I was in the same cycle. It is that cycle of rehabbing, injury, rehab, injury, rehab, injury. It is a vicious cycle that you never get out of. And so I went through from 1999, I tore my ACL. I was struggling from 99 until I retired in 2002. And it is a mental drain on you every day. You're trying to get that body back to where you know you can get it to, where you were once before that injury happened. And you can't find it. And so you're always just becoming kind of status quo. You get to about a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. And then when you feel like, then you're back to a 1.
Absolutely.
And so the mental drain of it every single day. The other thing that's big is your teammates. When you're not participating, when you don't contribute to the team's success, you don't feel like you're part of the team.
And unfortunately, we know in professional sports, if you're not playing, you're kind of, it's...
You're just a guy.
Just a guy.
You're just a guy out there. And that's the biggest thing for any player is that you want to feel like you're important to your team.
Yeah.
And you want to feel like you're a part of that team and whatever they do, and you just don't feel that. So when Andrew Luck walked away from the game, I saw it and I understood all of those emotions because I had those.
Yeah.
He didn't want to quit. He wants to play. He loves the game. But then you have to have an unconditional love, but you also have to have a mental, not mental toughness, but you got to be able to sustain that love for it, even when you go through all these downturns.
Dealing with this time and again. So Rob Gronkowski also launched a CBD product this week and also talked about how maybe it could have helped his recovery in his career. Look, a lot of these claims about CBD so far are unproven. This is a brand new industry that's barely even, us trying to figure out, okay, CBD from hemp is okay, but not from...
Yeah.
Why do you know, or why do you feel confident enough to say spend $8 basically for this drink? There's no THC. It's not the stuff that gets you high.
Correct.
Just the CBD. What happens if? Is the science going to prove this all out? What's your personal experience?
My personal experience is, like I said, for me, it really has taken it to another level. It's put me back to my playing weight. I feel about as good as I did when I played. My knees, I have more flexibility in my joints right now. Something I didn't expect was that it helped with my migraines. I actually was on migraine medication using naproxen 2 times a day as a preventative. And so when I read the research and it was like, okay, it might help with some migraines, I tried it. And for a year and a half now, I had 1 migraine. And I didn't have the full-blown migraine, so it's helped me in that respect. So I believe in it. It's worked for me. And not only that, I talk to a lot of players. And players have been using CBD for many, many years, way before, the 2 years that I researched this. And so there is a huge community of people who believe in this. Now, the research has to further some of the stuff out, but yeah, right now.
Right, and the FDA needs to kind of come up, be clearer about the regulations.
Correct.
So you were actually working with, John Isner is involved in this, correct?
Correct.
The pro tennis player, because pro tennis and I think pro golf are the two places where CBD products are, or usage is kind of okay.
Bubba's, yeah.
Yeah, what do you think the NFL should be doing if what you're saying about how this could help is true?
I think the NFL is doing what they should be doing. They're looking at it, and they're going to be doing research on it to make sure that it is something that is viable. And they just can't make a quick decision to say, okay, we're going to all of a sudden get behind this. They have to do their homework, and I respect that. So they're not saying no at this point, meaning they're not saying they won't look into it. They are. And so in a few years, hopefully sooner rather than later, this CBD will be something that players who are currently playing will be able to use as a measure of taking care of the pain management, the inflammation.
Yep.
Maybe sometimes you have, you can't sleep, so maybe for relaxing you. So I think the benefits of this is going to be tremendous, and we have yet to see right now no known really side effects. So I'm encouraged by what we see. It's a beautiful thing. It's worked for me, and it's worked for a lot of players.
All right.
And it's an awesome product. You got to get my product, though. So
Like that $8 price tag has me thinking. But Thursday it kicks off. The season does, right? We'll see how your Broncos do.
Yes.
Good luck to them.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Terrell, very much for joining me. Really appreciate it. Terrell Davis. Well, it's been a very different year for shares of Disney and Netflix. Disney climbing 21%, while Netflix has fallen by about the same amount. And with Disney Plus set to launch in just a couple months, we're going to take a look at what Netflix needs to do to stay competitive coming up.
Everyone wants to feel confident when hiring.
Hemorrhoids. You talk to your GP, but you don't really get anywhere. Because the NHS has limited surgery for hemorrhoids, so you go on suffering in silence. Okay, maybe not so silent. It's time to speak to Xroid. They specialise in a new, fast, safe and effective procedure for hemorrhoids with no downtime. And the procedure takes just 30 minutes or less. Don't be one of the 8 million people in the UK suffering in almost silence. Get back to what you love doing. Xroid. Be kind to your behind. For free advice on hemorrhoids, text KIND to 81156.
I'm getting strawberry notes and a flutter of sweetness without adding sugar. Clever. It is. Yazoo Kids chooses a lactose-reduced milk that enhances flavour without adding sugar or artificial sweeteners. Milky deliciousness and packed full of goodness. Very clever. Strawberry Yazoo Kids supports change for life. Yazoo, shake it up! Contains naturally occurring sugars. Milk is a source of calcium, which is needed for the maintenance of normal bones.
Did you know Currys PC World do business? Saving your business up to 30% with mega deals on computers and printers, electricals, large screen TVs, and even more. Top brands like HP, Microsoft, Epson, Sony. And if you find it cheaper from any major retailer, we'll match it. Get these deals before they're gone. Must end soon. Visit your nearest store or pcworldbusiness.co.uk/megadeals. T's and C's apply. Excludes Inc. and third-party sellers. Visit website for price promise details. Claim within 7 days.
Make sure you're uni-ready with our huge range of practical essentials and home-from-home comforts and get 10% off for a limited time. T's and C's and exclusions apply. Dunelm, the home of homes.
Silence the squawk. Find brand new cars ready to drive away today with Auto Trader.
Hi, it's Ali from Grange News. I'm getting everyone into the party mood with these indoor fireworks. Because how else do you celebrate tonight's triple rollover? Trust me, you don't want to miss it.
Lotto from the National Lottery. Amazing starts here. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Welcome back. These are the most searched tickers on CNBC.com right now. Guess what's number one? That 10-year yield. After the 5-year auction top of the hour, it's been sliding down a bit. 1.454 is the latest check there. You can see the Dow as well, WTI crude, the S&P 500, and Apple all rounding things out. As I mentioned, that 5-year note auction pushing the yields down in that space, but also across the board. Here's a fuller look. The 2-year at 1.494, the 10-year 1.454, and the 5-year has been sitting well below those levels. The lowest level in 3 years was that auction with the highest demand in almost a year. Coming up, Netflix is at a crossroads. The stock is in a bear market and the competition is heating up. A look at what Netflix needs to do to stay competitive. Next.
Every day, visionaries are creating the future.
It was a Sunday morning when I jumped on the tube.
And decided to pop down to Greenwich via
a large indoor jungle.
And when I got there, I was captivated by a sparkling
scary dinosaur just standing there right in front of me.
So off we went to Wembley Park
to look at the colourful fish.
Tap into the wonderful world of Off-Peak London. Travel in zones 2 to 6 for £1.50. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters. £1.50 is an adult off-peak pay-as-you-go fare for a journey not going via Zone 1 on Tube, DLR and most London Overground services. Always touch in and out with the same card or device to pay the right fare.
Should we go halves?
I'll get this. Let me just get my card. Which was in my pocket.
You can't control awkward first dates. But if you temporarily misplace your Visa debit card, you can freeze and unfreeze it on our mobile banking app. Feel in control every day. Lloyds Bank, by your side. You can only freeze some transaction types, T's and C's apply.
Hey, baseball fans. Can't watch the game? Can't be there? You can hear the home and away call for every team and every game with TuneIn.
Again, the 3-2. Swinging a line drive up the middle, base hit. 1 run scores. 2 runs will score.
The app that brings together all the live sports, music, news, and podcasts you love in one place. Listen to every MLB game live as it happens or on demand with TuneIn Premium. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Get your summer fiesta started with stations like Latin Hits for the hottest in Latin trap and reggaeton. Or Éxitos Mexicanos for the biggest tunes from banda, norteño, and mariachi. Or Sabor Salsero. Find the right music to relax, unwind, or party this summer season. Search Latin on TuneIn to discover your soundtrack.
TuneIn puts you on the sideline for the 2019 college football season free all year long. With college football on TuneIn, hear the home and away call for more than 140 schools live, regular season matchups and rivalry games, conference championships and bowl games, the college football playoff.
Throw it. He's got it on a stiff arm. End zone. Touchdown.
You can listen to it all for free at home, on campus, or on the road. Hear the excitement and pageantry of college football all season long, free on TuneIn.
The summer's over, the lunches are packed, and the kids are back off to school. With so much free time on your hands, fill the void with the amazing audio on TuneIn Premium. Whether you want to dance around the house to the best commercial-free music or catch up on the world with commercial-free news from MSNBC, CNBC, and Fox News Talk. Plus, TuneIn Premium gives you every NFL, MLB, NHL, and NBA game and all your favorite podcasts. You're bound to learn a thing or two yourself with TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Welcome back. Netflix is facing questions about its next act and overall strategy. The streamer's new movie, The Irishman, reportedly won't be shown at most major theaters after talks with AMC broke down. The stock is now down 25% from its recent high. So as the streaming competition heats up, what's next? For more, I'm joined by Sarah Fisher, media reporter at Axios, and our own Julia Borsten to talk about what's at stake for Netflix here. And Sarah, how big a blow is this? I mean, would it be better for Netflix to have this movie, The Irishman, shown in wide release?
I mean, I think that they want to tiptoe the line here. In one sense, they want it to be, eligible for awards. And that's why you need to have it in the theatrical release. And that matters because it helps you lure talent. It helps you build a brand. It helps establish yourself in Hollywood with getting major studio production deals. But in the other sense, it does financially benefit you to just go exclusively to your streaming service. That's helping you get and accrue more subscribers. So I think that's why you're seeing these limited releases. It's their way of sort of towing that line.
And Julia, Disney's just gotten glowing remarks for everything Disney Plus related with that launch coming up. It really couldn't be going better for them, at least at this stage.
Well, there's certainly a lot of anticipation going into the launch of Disney Plus on November 12th. They just showed us teasers, trailers for some of their new content, and there's a lot of excitement about that, a lot of questions about whether that might drive people to cancel their Netflix service. These are very different services. Netflix has a ton of content, but what Disney has, certainly when it comes to the new content, is really must-see content from these big brands, big franchise creators. So it'll be interesting to see how that impacts Netflix going forward.
And Julia, on Netflix, they have quite a few fall films coming up. Do you think, like Sarah's talking about, they want to get those in theaters? Are they okay with it being, valuable content for the platform?
Well, they absolutely do want to get them in theaters. And I think the key thing to remember here is the reason why they're not in more theaters is not because that's some sort of strategy that Netflix is taking. It's because the major theater chains, the AMCs, the Cinemarks of the world, they will not accept Netflix movies if Netflix is going to start streaming them just a month later. Netflix would love to put its movies in theaters for 3 weeks and then start streaming them for its fans. In fact, Netflix would love to start streaming them at home the same day they launch in theaters, but the theater chains, as well as the other movie studios, want to protect that theatrical release. They want to make sure that there's this concept that a theatrical release is really something separate, different, and that comes first, streaming comes later.
And I can understand that, Sarah. So Netflix faces a choice. They could have it both ways, theater and Netflix. You just got to wait a few more months.
That's exactly right. And I think that to Julia's point about AMC and Cinemark, if you take a look at the numbers, yes, there's revenue that's going up, but tickets have mostly plateaued. And so for them, it's crucial that they can maintain that sort of exclusivity of having a large window, a 90-day window of having films exclusively at the theater chains, not just something like 3 or 4 weeks.
Right. Well, we'll see if it's the start of a longer-term trend, that this outperformance that Disney's showing. Guys, appreciate it very much. Sarah Fisher and Julia Borston. And that does it for the exchange today. Thanks for joining me. I'll go join Melissa for Power Lunch, which begins now.
See you soon, Cal. Here's what's new at 2 on Power Lunch. Stocks are up in today's session, shaking off that warning from the bond market as the yield curve remains inverted. But can you trust this rally? Plus, the opioid fallout, Purdue Pharma looking to settle
Latin trap and reggaeton. Or éxitos mexicanos for the biggest tunes from banda, norteño, and mariachi. Or sabor salsero. Find the right music to relax, unwind, or party this summer season. Search Latin on TuneIn to discover your soundtrack.
TuneIn puts you on the sideline for the 2019 college football season free all year long. With college football on TuneIn, hear the home and away call for more than 140 schools live, regular season matchups and rivalry games, conference championships and bowl games, the college football playoff.
He's got a week losing streaks. Kelly.
Melissa, thanks. August has been a rough month for the markets. The S&P down more than 3%. What needs to happen for stocks to rebound? Bob Bassani is looking at the roadmap for the bulls. And Bob, maybe we just need for it to be September.
That's what I want. Maybe a lot of other people down here, I think you're right, Kelly. The bulls can't wait to get out of August. They're hopeful for more stable global economic data, number one. They're hoping for more help from central bank easing. And they're hoping, most importantly, no radical downward revisions, earnings estimates for the third and the fourth quarter. Earnings are the key here. And so far, other than some notable downward revisions in energy and materials, flattish remains the buzzword for earnings in 2019. We'll see. But the bears have got plenty of ammunition, too. Trade wars are hurting growth and earnings prospects that are out there. And we've seen lower yields, and that's emerged as the new worry overall. So traders are fretting now that, wait a minute, we're worried about lower yields. Central banks lowering the yields may not be the help everybody thought it was going to be. That's a real head spinner that's got everybody going down here. And finally, even on an update, have you noticed there's a growing list of new lows down here? It's getting larger, not smaller. Big industrial names like 3M, FedEx, Caterpillar, Textron, Freeport, McMoran, all tied to the global economy, all new lows today on an update. Melissa, back to you.
Thank you very much, Bob Bassani. So will the bulls get what they want? And are we headed for a fall rally? Is there more pain ahead? Joining us now is Phil Camparelli, JP Morgan Asset Management Allocation Strategist, and Jim McDonald, Northern Trust Chief Investment Strategist. Gentlemen, welcome to you. Phil, I'll start off with you. What's notable in today's rally is that we're seeing that sectors that have been really beaten down, they're taking the lead. They're leading this market higher. We're talking about regional banks, small caps, retail stocks. So does that make for a healthy bounce here?
Yeah, it's tough to take any direction from August here. I mean, in the spirit of Terrell Davis just being here, the Giants are undefeated in preseason. It doesn't mean they're going to win the Super Bowl, right? I mean, August has many, many different signals. But here's the signal, Melissa, that we're taking. First and foremost, the veracity of the yields and how they've fallen. Yields have fallen in August by the most they've fallen in almost 5 years in August. So for us, it's reduce some equity risk, okay? And in order to really take your equity risk much, much lower, you have to believe three things. First, that the Fed won't be successful in getting this economy to stay at trend. You have to believe that. We don't believe that. Second thing you'd have to believe is that there is actual political will for a trade war. Actual political will for a trade war on both sides that's going to affect growth and earnings. We don't quite believe that. The third thing, Melissa, that's really important, U.S. consumer. We believe that the U.S. consumer is the strongest they've been all cycle. So you'd have to take the other side of that to reduce equities even further.
The first one is interesting because that implies that you believe that the Fed can use monetary policy to offset any impact of a trade war. Is that what the core belief is at J.P. Morgan?
So the Jerome Powell does not have the tools to really fight against an all-out full trade war, which leads me to the second point. There has to be political will for that trade war. I think what Jerome Powell is saying is that inflation is slipping and they're going to have some sort of mid-cycle adjustment in order to...
But the key theme to all those three things are that you don't believe there's political will for a trade war, and so therefore it won't get worse.
And that's right. Okay. And we're looking at this kind of cautious stalemate. I think 2s10s is something, though, to watch, right? Sure. But three really important differences this time that 2s10s have inverted. First thing, the Fed is priced to ease now. In the past three inversions, the Fed was tightening post-inversion. Second thing is the $17 trillion of negative yielding bonds. We've never seen that before when the curve has been this flat. And then the third thing here is, the economy at this point is really just at a trend level, and we're not expecting that to fall much further.
Jim, I want to go to you in your allocation. You recommend a moderate overweight to risk assets. So does that mean that you don't think things will get much worse, despite what the yield curve is telling us?
We don't think things will get much worse. And let's talk about the yield curve for a quick second. So if you believe that an inversion is a predictor of recession to come, the only two major markets that have an inverted yield curve today are the United States and Canada. So if you think that this is a real clear predictor, you've got risk in only those two markets, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But we do want to have protection against the trade war. We think that's going to persist for years to come. So we're overweight U.S. equities and underweight emerging markets. We want interest rate sensitivity, so we like real estate and infrastructure. And we still like high-yield bonds. And high-yield bonds are another signal that the yield curve is not telling us we're going into recession. High-yield spreads at 4% today are at half of the level that they were back in the first quarter of 2016 when we were really worried about the risk of recession.
Jim, if you're not worried about the U.S. economy, why do you want to be in interest rate sensitive parts of the stock market?
Just because there's such a flood of money into the yield-seeking assets globally that it's really supported real estate, really supported infrastructure. And if we're wrong, those assets have less downside risk to them than traditional equities. So it's a way to hedge a little bit of the risk in the portfolio, but also a reflection of the fact that we think rates are going to stay low for a long period of time.
Your belief that the trade war won't get worse, does that sort of diminish or does that weaken as every day passes?
Well, I think, Melissa, you can say that it can't get much worse, but it also can't get much better.
It can't get much worse. It sure can get much worse.
No, but I'm saying that there's a limit between how far it can get for President Trump's reelection bid, right? I think that's the key here. And when pushes come to shove, what we've seen, whether it be the Huawei extensions, whether it be the September 1st extensions, that has happened, and it hasn't really been something that has been pushed to an escalation point.
Jim, you want to weigh in on that?
Well, I think one of our key risks is that the trade and tariff war could expand, and the U.S. could decide to go against European auto manufacturers, for example. The president also breached what I think the market believed was a 25% cap on where he'd go on tariffs. Now, he has backed off a little bit as the markets got a little rockier. But there's no question in my mind that this could resurface as an additional risk in the markets over the next 6 to 12 months. And again, we think this is going to persist for years to come between the U.S. and China.
All right. Thank you both, Phil Camporelli and Jim McDonald.
Now, the president tweeted today about the Fed and negative bond yields. He said, quote, "Our Federal Reserve cannot mentally keep up with the competition. Other countries." At the G7 in France, Trump said all of the other leaders were giddy about how low their interest costs have gone. Germany is actually getting paid to borrow money. 0 interest plus no clue Fed. Let's bring in Rick Santelli to do some Mythbusters on this tweet. Rick.
You know, listen, I could just tackle this in the most simple way. Germany's highest court has had a number of challenges to the ECB policy and the EU central bank's policies in general. But there's two newer ones, one almost settled, one coming out in September of this year, rulings, and I'll go over them quickly because giddiness usually doesn't go along with court cases. Basically, the EU's central bank policies were coordinated into what they call the EU banking union. It was created in 2012 to deal with the crisis. But the German courts want some kind of throttle or governor on that. And the second case is huge. Is QE even legal under German law? And there's been many of these cases. But the issue is they're not giddy. Germans are actually paying for this. Countries have prolific spending. Think Italy, and they're 10 years lower than ours. Who's subsidizing that? Germany, because they get full value on the face value of securities that they purchase with funds injected in large parts by Germany. But yet, if they were to sell them in the open marketplace, they're not worth anywhere near that. The long and the short of it is Germans are getting tired of it. Merkel's on her way out. We have a Lagarde coming in October, and the reason she's coming in is because the politics of this are getting so messy. So if at G7 these leaders were giddy, it's probably because they have about the same understanding regarding currencies and interest rates as the current president does.
All right, Rick, thank you. Rick Santelli. Coming up, Shaquille O'Neal, the Shaq, will be here in studio to talk about his many business ventures. He's a Papa John's board member, was in on the ground floor of Ring, and now he's got a new app focusing on the gig economy. And we've got the latest on Purdue Pharma's efforts to settle opioid litigation against it, plus what it means for the public companies dealing with the same issues. Power Lunch will be right back.
Do you have concerns about...
If it isn't dead, if it ever comes back, we'll come back to.
On September 6th.
It's me, the Losers Club has officially begun.
They're back, and so is he.
We didn't stop it.
The Clown. Starring James McAvoy and Jessica Chastain.
For 27 years, I dreamt of you.
See how it all ends.
I craved you.
It, Chapter 2.
I missed you.
In cinemas September 6th. Book tickets now, rated 15.
Hemorrhoids. You talk to your GP, but you don't really get anywhere. Because the NHS has limited surgery for hemorrhoids, so you go on suffering in silence. Okay, maybe not so silent. It's time to speak to X-Royd. They specialise in a new, fast, safe and effective procedure for hemorrhoids with no downtime. And the procedure takes just 30 minutes or less. Don't be one of the 8 million people in the UK suffering in almost silence. Get back to what you love doing. X-Royd. Be kind to your behind. For free advice on hemorrhoids, text KIND to 81156.
Live big and spend less on the brands you adore. And dine by the waterside. Who could want more? Lap up the savings as much as the view. With Ted Baker, Hackett, Nike and Coach too. Lock Fine and Five Guys make it a date. You can shop, meet and eat every weekday till late. So sit back, unwind and let style lead the way. And give yourself a different day at Gunwharf Keys. Waterfront outlet shopping.
Did you know Currys PC World do business? Saving your business up to 30% with mega deals on computers and printers, electricals, large screen TVs, and even more. Top brands like HP, Microsoft, Epson, Sony. And if you find it cheaper from any major retailer, we'll match it. Get these deals before they're gone. Must end soon. Visit your nearest store or pcworldbusiness.co.uk/megadeals. T's and C's apply. Excludes Inc. and third-party sellers. Visit website for price promise details. Claim within 7 days.
Dad, I'm bored.
Why don't you go and start your holiday homework?
Don't worry, this summer we've got loads of exciting activity ideas to keep the kids entertained without even having to leave London. Make the most of the sunshine and go on a bug hunt or even a treasure hunt and cool down with some homemade ice lollies. Look online for Asda Tour de Fun for even more exciting activity ideas. Go discover your fun side with Asda.
Welcome back to Power Lunch. A major development in the fight against opioid abuse. OxyContin maker Purdue Pharma and its owners are offering billions of dollars to settle lawsuits surrounding its products. Meg Terrell joins us now with the details. Meg.
Hey guys, well, the proposed $10 to $12 billion that Purdue is offering here would aim to settle more than 2,000 cases against Purdue Pharma and its owners, the Sackler family. Now, this was reported first late yesterday by NBC, and that settlement amount would be reached in a kind of piecemeal fashion. So Purdue would file for bankruptcy and then restructure into a public benefit trust, which would disperse profits from sales of OxyContin and another drug to municipalities that agree to the settlement. Now, the company would also donate $4 billion worth of drugs, including some to treat opioid addiction. And finally, the Sackler family would pay at least $3 billion. Now, this isn't a done deal, but even the mention that a settlement would include both states as well as cities and counties is notable. Until recently, it had seemed that the states preferred to go it alone. So now the question is how this affects settlement discussions for other companies involved in these opioid cases, from other drug makers to drug distributors to pharmacies. Now, of course, J&J said this week after its loss in Oklahoma that it would consider a settlement in the federal consolidation of thousands of cases in Ohio. And guys, there's also been a really interesting new development in this case as well, where a deposition from Richard Sackler, who was the CEO of Purdue Pharma, was just unsealed after a court fight from Stat News and ProPublica. And I believe we have that video that we can show you now, courtesy of Stat and ProPublica. Check this out.
Sitting here today, after all you've come to learn as witness, do you believe that Purdue's conduct in Kentucky has led to an excessive or unnecessary amount of opioids being located throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky?
I don't believe so.
Do you believe that any of Purdue's conduct has led to an increase in people being addicted in the Commonwealth of Kentucky?
No.
And guys, that's so notable because nobody had really even necessarily seen photos of Richard Sackler until this was unsealed after a court fight.
But literally, this is unsealed. We got this video just moments ago, just prior to airing it and showing it to our viewers. But also, what's notable about Richard Sackler, Meg, is there is this talk that he gave to his employees way back when about the potential for opioids and specifically oxy, and he said something to the effect of everything from natural disasters will be our friend because it'll increase demand for opioids. I mean, the view of this drug was just unbelievable.
Yeah, the coverage around some of his language around how hard he pushed internally at the company, blizzards of prescriptions, things like that, that he was really obviously a champion for this drug, was pretty colorful. Colorful language.
Meg, thanks. In fact, stick around for more on these lawsuits and the opioid epidemic in general. Let's bring in John Temple now. He's a West Virginia University professor and author of American Pain. So, John, are we proceeding in the right way with potentially having this Purdue settlement on the table first because of what they manufactured? There are many, many other stakeholders in this process, but how do you expect the companies, including Johnson & Johnson, to be held liable?
Yeah, it's very interesting, and Purdue Pharma and the Sacklers are kind of a unique case because they're sort of a face to put on the epidemic. They've been at this since 1996 when they introduced OxyContin, and because of that, and because of their early aggressive marketing techniques, and the fact that they were kind of the first drug manufacturing company to say these drugs are not as addictive as we previously thought, which of course has been completely debunked by the epidemic that we're facing. Yeah, they've become the face and the target, and I think other companies are in a different situation.
Yeah, that said, the $10 to $12 billion that they've put on the table, you say, pales in comparison to what the tobacco companies paid out over a quarter century, which was nearly $250 billion.
Right. That settlement in 1998 set the standard for what a major health-related settlement could be, and this is a tiny amount of that so far. 572 million, settlement with Johnson & Johnson in Oklahoma, and then this potential 10 to 12 million. $1 billion settlement with the Sacklers is peanuts, in comparison to that.
John, when you think about this crisis, this epidemic, how do you think about blame? I mean, we're talking about dollar amounts that companies will have to pay, but from your standpoint, in terms of the manufacturers of the drugs, the distributors of the drugs, even the federal government itself through the Drug Enforcement Agency, which effectively signed off on the production of millions of pills, they had to know were way too many for the populations they would be sent to.
I think this caught us all by surprise. I think the Sacklers knew more. It's coming out how much they knew early on about the potential damage that these drugs would cause. But I don't think anyone envisioned an epidemic of the scope that we have. So a lot of mistakes were made, and this is at every level. This is drug manufacturers like Purdue Pharma and many other drug manufacturers who followed suit and began to market exactly the way Purdue did. And it goes on down the line, to pharmacists, to doctors, to pill mill owners, to the people taking the drugs themselves. And everyone. And like you said, part of the problem is the federal government. The DEA signed, their job is to sign off on these increases and determine how much of these controlled substances should we produce every year. And they went from in 1993, if you look at the numbers between 1993 and 2014, the amount of oxycodone that the DEA allowed to be produced went up 40-fold. So it's a huge increase.
Yeah. So, John, if the Purdue settlement is accepted by the cities, states, counties, is that it for the Sacklers? What about the Department of Justice and any potential criminal charges that they could potentially bring? We've continually heard the DOJ is not satisfied that after that 2006 or 2007 guilty plea from some Purdue executives that this behavior continued.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure that will be part of any agreement, any settlement, because they don't want to be pursued criminally for this. I'm curious. I don't know how much the Sacklers are worth, but it's way more than $3 billion. So I don't know if this is your reporting on NBC's reporting on this has been. I'm not sure exactly how much, at what stage of the settlement process we're in, that those numbers came out of, whether it's actually been agreed upon or not. But I would imagine all this is going to shake out over the next little while. But it's interesting because the publicity, I think, is kind of changing the game a little bit. I don't think people will be satisfied with these numbers. I mean, I'm here in West Virginia, which is kind of a ground zero for this epidemic, and people are angry, and I don't think 10 or 12 billion is going to be accepted.
John, thanks very much. John Temple for joining us. Meg Terrell with your reporting as well. Thanks.
Ahead on Power Lunch, our power player, Shaq, is in the house. The NBA legend will join us live to talk sports, business, and a whole lot more. Plus, retail stocks are rallying today with the XRT up more than 2% after the break. We'll tell you the one stock in the group traders say is a screaming buy. And Pulse of the Consumer, the CEO of Washington Federal Bank, joins us to discuss what it's seeing in the economy. All this when Power Lunch returns.
At Tesco, we can pop our pasta in your Astra, our red Leicester in your Fiesta, or our mayo in your Mondeo. All you need to do is try Click and Collect. Just go to Tesco.com, order your shopping, then click and collect. With the minimum basket spend now only £25. And if you fancy something a little more exotic, we can even put our pad thai in your Qashqai. Try Click and Collect at Tesco.com. Every little helps. Selected larger stores. Booking charge may apply. See online for full terms and conditions.
This summer at Chessington World of Adventures Resort, answer the call of the wild. With over 1,000 of the world's most amazing animals and over 40 of the wildest rides and attractions. Meet the Gruffalo and all your favourite characters at the Gruffalo Summer Party and so much more. Book early and save up to 40% at Chessington.com. It's Britain's wildest adventure for all the family.
Everyone wants a smooth running home. so that they can spend more time enjoying it. The British Gas app allows you to do just that, because with the touch of a finger, you can quickly submit meter readings or book an expert engineer, leaving you more time for watering the borders or a spot of sunbathing. Manage your home account and more all in one place. Download the British Gas app from the App Store or Google Play today.
Chloe, is that you? Still lugging that old laptop round your lectures?
No, my name's not Chloe, it's Claire. No,
No one wants to be seen with an old laptop at uni. Ask Curry's PC World about a new one, like the stylish HP Envy with its lights-in design. Only $749. Plus, save £100 more when you trade in your old qualifying laptop.
Nice new laptop, Chloe. Thanks. It's Chloe, like the goddess.
Save with instant trade-in at Curry's PC World. In-store only. See website for laptop trade-in qualifying criteria and valuation.
Silence the squawk. Find brand new cars ready to drive away today with Auto Trader.
Welcome back to Power Lunch. I'm Mike Santoli at the New York Stock Exchange. Discount stores getting wrapped up in the retail rally today. Five Below, Dollar Tree, and Dollar General all bringing up some gains. This ahead of Five Below's earnings out after the bell, and Dollar Tree and Dollar General's results that come out tomorrow. Let's bring in the Trading Nation team, Ari Wald of Oppenheimer and Mark Tepper of Strategic Wealth Partners. So, Ari, this group has certainly held up better than the typical retail stock, which might not be saying very much this year. But how does the sector set up right now in terms of the discounters?
Yeah, I'd say thematically, we're really not seeing the type of broad-based industry strength that would make the group a top idea. But with that said, I think the one standout here is Dollar General. At Oppenheimer, here's a stock rated outperform by our fundamental analysts, and a stock that continues to maintain its bullish trend. I think really the standout chart here is Dollar General relative to the S&P 500, breaking through multi-year resistance dating back to the year 2016. That argues for continued leadership in this stock. It's got good momentum behind it, good trend. Dollar General, we're buyers.
All right, Mark, this group traditionally is seen as somewhat counter-cyclical, right? When the economy starts to slow down or people start to get a little bit strapped, maybe they outperform. Is that what we're seeing here in terms of Dollar General doing well, or how would you approach these guys?
That's definitely a big factor. I mean, so dollar stores are a great place to hide out right now because as the economy slows, more and more people go into these stores. So we own Dollar General, and Dollar General mainly sells consumables. So over 75% of their revenues are coming from things like food and cleaning products. And those are items that households need, whether the economy is strong or weak. And, you know, when you look at Dollar General, when you compare them to the other names, one of the biggest things that stands out to me is their geographical footprint. So almost all the competitors are mostly based in the suburbs, but Dollar General is more concentrated in rural areas where there's less competition, so they're the only game in town. So management's doing an awesome job managing prices, costs, inventory, and of all these names, Dollar General is the least exposed to tariffs. So right now, we're letting our position ride, but if this thing would pull back to about $125 on an expectations miss, we'd be buying a heck of a lot more.
All right, so that'd be about a 10% pullback if it ever happened. For now, though, the chart looks pretty solid. Ari and Mark, thank you very much. For more Trading Nation, head to our website or follow us on Twitter at Trading Nation. Kelly, back over to you.
All right, Mike, thanks very much. Coming up on Power Lunch, the one and only, yes, Shaquille O'Neal. The basketball legend is also a savvy investor with pieces of several businesses you know. We're going to ask him about his latest venture. We've also got some NBA questions for him as well. Shaq is making his way over to the set right now.
Scaring some people on the way.
Classic. We'll see him right after this.
And now, the latest from TradingNation.CNBC.com and a word from our sponsor.
For entries into breakouts, some traders use buy-stop limit orders placed above resistance levels. Unlike regular buy-stops, buy-stop limits turn into limit orders when the stop is triggered. Thus, if a stock closes below the stop price one day and opens far above the limit price the next, a trader will not buy the stock. I'm Lee Bohl, and Schwab is the better place for traders. Okay.
Live big and spend less on the brands you adore, and dine by the waterside. Who could want more? Lap up the savings as much as the view with Ted Baker, Hackett, Nike, and Coach too. Lock Fine and Five Guys make it a date. You can shop, meet, and eat every weekday till late. So sit back, unwind, and let style lead the way. And give yourself a different day at Gunwharf Keys. Waterfront outlet shopping.
Dad, I'm bored.
Why don't you go and start your holiday homework?
Don't worry, we've teamed up with Disney to bring you loads of exciting activities to keep the kids entertained this summer without even having to leave London. Make the most of the sunshine. And go play pool games at your local swimming baths, inspired by Disney Pixar's Toy Story 4's Ducky. Yay! Look online for Asda Tour de Fun for even more exciting activity ideas. Go discover your fun side with Asda.
Strength and things. Strength and things. Strength and things. Strings and things. Strings and things and strings, strings, strings and things. Strings, strings, strings and things. Strings, strings, strings and things. Strings and...
Now there's a whole range of strings and things called strings and things, including cheese strings, yollies, and new cheese shapes. Find them all in the cheese and yogurt aisle.
Strings and things.
I didn't choose you, you chose me. When you broke from the crowd and pawed at my knee, soon you'll be feeling right at home. You'll be a bit unsure, but you're free to roam. What's good to chew? What's nice to nibble? Wet food, dry food, tin food, kibble? You might sometimes be cheeky, not always wise, but I know I found love in those puppy dog eyes. Join the free VIP Puppy Club from Pets at Home for advice and exclusive offers, including 10% off your first shop in store. Visit petsathome.com/puppy club or join in store. T's and C's apply.
Make sure you're uni ready with our huge range of practical essentials and home from home comforts and get 10% off for a limited time. T's and C's and exclusions apply. Dunelm, the home of homes.
This summer at Chessington World of Adventures Resort. Answer the call of the wild. With over 1,000 of the world's most amazing animals and over 40 of the wildest rides and attractions. Meet the Gruffalo and all your favourite characters at the Gruffalo Summer Party and so much more. Book early and save up to 40% at Chessington.com. It's Britain's wildest adventure for all the family.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Sue Herrera. Here's your CNBC News update at this hour. Swedish climate change activist Greta Thunberg is making landfall in New York City as her 15-day zero-carbon transatlantic journey comes to an end. The 16-year-old will take part in the UN Environmental Summit in New York. There's a new warning for residents of several states, including Michigan and Massachusetts, where mosquitoes are spreading a very rare but extremely deadly virus known as EEE. It is deadlier than the West Nile virus, and officials are urging residents to stay indoors starting at dusk. Marriott will eliminate small plastic bottles of shampoo, conditioner, and bath gel from its hotel rooms worldwide by December of 2020. They will be replaced with larger bottles or wall-mounted dispensers. The move follows a similar announcement last month by IHG, which owns Holiday Inn, Kimpton, and other brands. And heads up, United Airlines travelers, your frequent flyer miles will no longer expire. The airline joins Delta and JetBlue, allowing customers to hold on to their miles indefinitely. That is the news update this hour. Melissa, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you very much, Sue Herrera. Let's take a check on the markets here. And we are holding on to the green despite the inverted yield curve, which seems to be persisting in today's rally. The Dow is up by 219 points or 0.9%. S&P 500 up by 15.5 points. We're about 30 points off of the session lows on the S&P. The NASDAQ higher by 19. Well, let's get straight to it, shall we? Shaquille O'Neal, he's here. He's in the house. He's right next to me, in fact. He is best known for his days as an NBA legend, but since hanging him up, he's become an all-star in the business world. One of Shaq's latest partnerships is Steady, an app built for the exploding gig economy, connecting workers to jobs and financial advice. Joining us now is Shaquille O'Neal. He's an advisor to Steady, and also with us, Adam Roseman, Steady's CEO. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. Great to have you here in the house.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
How did this come about? Because I know that you have in the past called up founders of companies that you like. Who called whom?
Well, I met Adam in Atlanta, and he said, Shaq, I want to have a conversation with you about the gig economy. And I was like, what does that mean? And he explained to me what it was, and it took me back to my childhood where my mom and dad both had to work extra jobs for extra income. So he said, Shaq, how would you like to start an app that will help people get a sustainable income? And I said, that is something I'd be very interested in. Because, a lot of people talk about me being an all-star investor. I don't want to sit up here and act like I'm the smartest guy in the world. I heard the great Jeff Bezos say, if you invest in stuff that's going to change people's lives, most of the time you'll win. So this right here will definitely change people's lives. It's about 70 million people that have to have gigs for that extra income. I was part of the research. I went out and met many families, met many people. A lot of them do have jobs, but they want to, take on a gig or two to get, pay for an extra car note or buy something special, or, do something special. So it's definitely something that needs to be done. So when I met with Adam and his team, I think they're doing a beautiful job. And I told him, I said, listen, there's a lot of people that are more like me and not like you. What I meant by that, like I'm smart, but I'm lazy smart. Like when I go to an app, I want to just be boom, 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 and I'm there. So I told him and his team, if you're going to do an app for me, make sure the app is, very, very easy, very smooth, and I assure you it's easy and anybody can use it.
Adam, how does it work? Does it connect me to Uber and to TaskRabbit and a million other things? And what is it telling you about the economy right now?
Sure. So Steady's focus is to provide a platform that actually services the worker, right? If you look at Uber, if you look at Lyft, you look at DoorDash, their end customer is the person who's booking that service. There's nothing out there today that helps the user figure out what is best for them.
Kind of put it all in one place.
Put it all in one place, right? And with the advancement of technology, the worker is consistently disadvantaged. There's not a technology platform that has been funded, that has gone public, that doesn't disadvantage the worker today. And so what Steady is trying to do is to create a platform that utilizes technology and the collaboration of the data set of all of those individuals, to give the power back to the worker.
Very cool. And so far, is it telling you that, just a quick macro read? I mean, can you tell us anything about the economy right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's frightening, right? I mean, the latest statistic published by the National Bureau of Economic Research is that 43% of Americans have more than one source of income. We're in this record low unemployment environment. We have the prospect of that changing on the horizon. We have automation where these workers, which are hourly workers, make up the largest share of the vulnerable workers who are going to be most susceptible to losing jobs. And you have the continued Uberization of enterprise, right, where businesses are better matching labor supply with demand, shrinking the number of available work hours for these folks. So I'm very frightened in terms of what this has to bring.
So the trend is your friend in terms of the demographics trends and the need for people to work. How do you see this investment paying off? I mean, you're known also for calling up the founder of Ring because you like the product so much. You installed it yourself. You call them up, and it ends up being bought out for a big payout.
I learned early.
Is this going to be the same, you think?
I learned early that when I stopped thinking about the payouts, I'll always be successful. We talked about this before the cameras were rolling, but when I first came in, I lost a lot of money in the get-rich-quick schemes, right? So then I'm just, listening to people.
What was the worst investment you ever made?
On paper.
Paper itself.
Guy had a paper company. He said he had all these deals with all the schools and all the government and this and that, and it turned out to be a scam. But I'm listening to all these brilliant people talk. Bill Gates, a friend of mine, rest in peace, was Roger Enrico, former CEO of Pepsi. Me and him, when I had to deal with Pepsi, he would tell me about his strategies. But once I started again investing in things that's going to change people's lives, it'll work. For example, Ring. I got involved with Ring because this was the first time in my life that I stopped being a spoiled brat. What I mean by that is I used to live in neighborhoods with security, right around front gate. So in Atlanta, I live in a regular neighborhood amongst the people, 30 acres, and I wanted to get a few
30 acres amongst the people.
No, but well, my next door neighbor has 50 acres. So,
Smallest house on the block, I guess.
So I called up the security firm and said, hey, I want to get a few cameras, $50,000. Not going to pay that. Called up another one, $30,000. Not going to pay that. So let me just go to Best Buy. So I was getting TVs, and I saw the little Ring camera thing, and so you had doorbell cams and floodlight cams, and it worked perfectly. Because all
For
the
a
other,
couple $100 probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So all the other cameras that I have in my house, they're not connected to my phone. And I paid a lot of money for that. So I was like, this is brilliant. So I bought a few more, and I probably equipped my old house for about $2,000. Like, 10 to 15 cameras. Wow. So when I went to a conference in Vegas, I met with Jamie, and I said, Jamie, I don't think a lot of people know and understand about this technology. I want to invest in your company, and I want to help get the word out.
One thing people also don't understand about you is that after you've pieced together all of these investments, what do you call the annual conference you have every year where you bring everybody together?
The Shack Summit.
And you say to them, tell me, how can I help you? What do you need from me? I mean, there's a real strategy behind all of this.
Yes, because from a marketing standpoint, if you look at what I'm doing, I'm all over the place. But the only way to bring people together is to bring people together. So I'll have all my people at once, and we're going to drop this commercial. We're going to do this. How can he help you? So it's like a team. So even though I'm working with 10 different companies, we're all working together. So ICI could do something with Steady. Steady could do something with Ring. So it's all that, so that we're on the same team. And I learned that from, winning championships. If you got people that's all over the place, you never win. So I do a Shack Summit every year, 2-3 days. Everybody knows what we're doing, and we all stay together.
You're the pitch man for a lot of different products, but the key theme is that you actually like every single thing that you endorse.
I have to like the product. I have to understand it, and I really have to believe in it. My father was a drill sergeant, and one thing he taught me was honor and respect. And I wouldn't be able to shake Adam's hand if I didn't, believe in his product. I believe in his product. I believe in his company. I wanted to invest. I wanted to become a partner. My mother said something that was very profounding to me when I retired. She said, baby, I love you. You did everything I asked you to do. You went back to school. You won championships. You're a class act. So now, for the rest of your years on this earth, what are you going to do to lift up other people? People have always been, lifting you and, praising you. What are you going to do to lift somebody else's spirit? So after I heard her say that and Jeff Bezos say that, I think this right here would definitely help people have a sustainable income. I always get messed up with that word.
With the right phrase. But you do a lot of stuff that gives you a pulse on what is happening with people just out there, across the country right now. Anything you can tell us about, there's all these headlines about the problems with the U.S. and a recession is looming and run for the hills and hide. What?
I want to be the guy that when you see my face in the commercial, you see me walking around, hopefully I can bring a smile to your face. That's what I want to be. I don't talk politics. I don't talk investing. I don't talk getting rich. I don't want to sit up here like I'm an expert. Another quote that I read is from Dwight D. Eisenhower, the greatest leaders are the ones to hire people smarter than him. So when I met a guy like Adam, like this company, I could never do it by myself. So Adam, him and his team are very brilliant, very smart, and I'd love to be partnered with people that are very smart.
The other thing people, I think, don't understand is it's traditionally been hard for the NBA's big man to be the promotional guru, right? In football, it's the quarterback. In the NBA, the center position practically doesn't exist anymore. So you really had to have a strong enough personality that you could overcome that kind of inherent bias towards the Michael Jordans of the world.
And that's the same thing my marketing professor told me when I had to deliver a product in college. I actually failed that class. He said, Shaq, you're a funny guy and all that, but the climate of the NBA, big guys just don't sell. So I went back to my room and I'm just sort of down, and I saw a commercial that ran about 9 times. Spuds McKenzie just kept running. So
the dog,
right? So I didn't think anything of it. I went to the gas station. This guy got cups. He got hats.
Doesn't even have any lines in the commercial.
Yes, no, he don't even have. So he had everything. So then I went back and watched the commercial. I was like, why do people like this dog? Because he was funny. I said, I'm funny, so if I ever get on TV, I just have to show my personality. And I think, people just like to laugh and just like to smile.
What are you seeing in the economy across your businesses? You have 17 Aunt Annie's franchises. You've got Big Chicken. You've got a whole bunch of Krispy Kreme franchise in Atlanta.
My method in dealing with business is I never worry about the problem. I worry about the solution. So again, I have a lot of people that are smarter than me. So, when it's time to make a move, we make a move. When it's time to sit and just try to weigh things out, we sit and weigh things out. But again, I just try to make investment on things that are just, make people happy. When I was in the gym business, people like working out. When I was in a fast food business before, Five Guys, everybody likes burgers. Everybody likes new things. Now I'm on the board of Papa John's. And we just want to continue to make people happy. But again, I'm not this expert, and I do this like everything I touch is gold. It's not the case. I've failed many times.
What's the biggest money mistake you've made?
A lot. Just again, when I was younger, hey, give me $1 million, and by 3 years it'll be $10 million. Deals like that, I would take every time.
Get rich.
Give me $10 million. We'll invest in this company, and boom, boom, boom. 4 years from now it'll be worth $300 million. You can get me like that. But from like 19 to 26, anybody could come in my office, tell me that deal, and I would take it right away. No research, no due diligence. Oh, if I give you $1 million now, boom, 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 a couple years, it could be $100 million, I'll do that deal. Because I was trying to, but once I stopped focusing on that and really just start paying attention and start looking at things, I became a little bit more successful.
You're also invested in stocks, aren't you?
A little bit.
What's your favorite stock right now?
Well, I'm invested in all the big ones. Like, I'll always go with the big ones. I don't really go with the new ones. I just like to wait out. So I'm Apple, Starbucks, stuff like that.
Do you have the same philosophy? You have to like the product in order to buy the stock?
Yes, I do.
And do you make the calls on those trades or somebody else?
Well, I have a couple guys that work for me. A guy named Ken Gunsberger, Lester Nispel, Jeff Asoff. So, I have a couple guys that are smarter than me that'll say, this is doing this, we should wait on that,
So can we
talk? Again, it's about team. Yes.
Sure. But can we talk basketball for a second?
Of course. You can talk whatever you like.
So you have this fascinating dynamic in the NBA right now with these super teams. The Lakers are going to be so much fun to watch this year, see if they can pull it off. It's changed a lot since you were there. Is it changing for the better? Is it changing for the worse? Do the players have too much power? Is there collusion by these agents by bringing all of these guys together?
I think it's so much pressure on the guys to win. When I was coming up, it was only a couple of media outlets and that's it. But now every phone is also a media outlet. There's so much pressure on the guys to win that I think it's easier if you get a guy or two that can help you out.
But what happens to all the other teams? What happens to the value of you're a Sacramento Kings guy. Yes. They're not really in the mix right now.
No, we're not in the mix, and it kind of devalues the competition aspect. When I was coming up, the stories I've always liked to see was, okay, Magic beat Bird, so I would have to wait 300 days to see if it would change. So it's different to each his own. But I don't really like it. I like competition. I just want these guys to compete. They're getting paid a lot of money. So getting paid a lot of money, if you have to compete against somebody that's on your level, I think it'll be a better game for the fans. But like you said, a lot of teams will struggle. And, hopefully they could keep their fan base.
So who are you pulling for this year? Who's going to be
Sacramento Kings.
Most interesting? All right, let me phrase it differently. Which game are you definitely not going to want to miss? Because the Pelicans, that could be...
I'm a fan of Golden State because I think they play basketball the right way. Houston is going to be very interesting with Harding and Westbrook. Clippers and Lakers. A lot of teams are great. I'm interested to see what Toronto can do without Kawhi. But other than that, teams, they just have, hate to say it like this, they just have regular players.
They just have regular players. Just boring old NBA.
No, I don't want to use the word boring. Just, regular guys.
It's been a pleasure. We hope to see you on CNBC a lot more.
Yes, ma'am.
It's been great.
Thanks for having us.
Shaquille O'Neal and Adam Roseman.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Power Lunch will be right back. Stay with us after this break.
Hi, Phil Swift here for the...
Did you know Currys PC World do business? Saving your business up to 30% with mega deals on computers and printers, electricals, large screen TVs, and even more. Top brands like HP, Microsoft, Epson, Sony. And if you find it cheaper from any major retailer, we'll match it. Get these deals before they're gone. Must end soon. Visit your nearest store or pcworldbusiness.co.uk/megadeals. T's and C's apply. Excludes Inc. and third-party sellers. Visit website for price promise details. Claim within 7 days.
Everyone wants a smooth running home so that they can spend more time enjoying it. The British Gas app allows you to do just that Because with the touch of a finger, you can quickly submit meter readings or book an expert engineer, leaving you more time for watering the borders or a spot of sunbathing. Manage your home account and more, all in one place. Download the British Gas app from the App Store or Google Play today.
It was a Sunday morning when I jumped on the tube.
And decided to pop down to Greenwich via
a large indoor jungle.
And when I got there, I was captivated by a sparkling
scary dinosaur just standing there right in front of me.
So off we went to Wembley Park
to look at the colourful fish.
Tap into the wonderful world of Off-Peak London. Travel in zones 2 to 6 for £1.50. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters. £1.50 is an adult off-peak pay-as-you-go fare for a journey not going via Zone 1 on Tube, DLR and most London Overground services. Always touch in and out with the same card or device to pay the right fare.
Dinner Lady Margaret spent her 25-year career laughing and joking with the school children. Then she received a call out of the blue about her pension from what she thought was a reputable firm. But it was a scammer, and her lifetime savings was stolen.
Yeah, dries like a dream. I'll take it.
Don't let a scammer enjoy your retirement. Check who you're dealing with. Visit ScamSmart from the Financial Conduct Authority.
We're keeping the feel-good deals coming this summer with super low prices at Tesco Mobile. Like the fantastic new Samsung Galaxy A40 for just $13.99 a month. Or pick up a 5 gig SIM for only £11 a month. Make the most of our feel-good deals. Head to your local store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
A40 ends 1st of September. 36-month credit agreement, 24-month usage agreement. SIM on 12-month contract. Subject to status. Phase policy applies. See tescomobile.com/terms.
People say you get what you pay for. We disagree. The Peugeot 208 Signature, loaded with features from touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto to parking sensors and 16-inch alloys. At £199 a month with £199 initial rental, you really don't get what you pay for. You get a lot more. The Peugeot 208 Signature. All that's missing is your signature. Peugeot Motor Company PLC, a credit broker, not a lender, will introduce you to PSA Finance UK Limited. Personal finance lease, 48 months at £199, 18 plus. Guarantee may be required. Terms, eligibility and return conditions apply. You will not own the car.
Delivering Alpha, the most important investor summit 9 years running. Strategy from leading alpha generators. Direct access to policymakers and government leaders. On September 19th, see who's calling the shots now. Go to deliveringalpha.com to attend this year's blockbuster event.
You will come away with ideas that you can put to work immediately.
Plus, special guest Vice President Mike Pence talks economy and trade war impact. Reserve your spot now at deliveringalpha.com.
No.
What are you doing?
I don't like any of our preset radio stations. We need a new car.
With the Jaguar E-Pace at $299 a month on personal contract hire, you'll find a reason.
That's better. And it's a Jaguar.
Initial rental £3,588. 48-month term. Subject to status. 8,000 miles per annum. Excess mileage and return conditions apply. No ownership option. Ends 30th of September. Participating retailers only. Jaguar contract hire.
I'm home. Hi, Mum. Wow, what's that?
Saltwater supercars from Shell. Toy cars that run on salt water.
Science-fueled family fun. Fill up with £30 or more and you'll qualify to buy a car from just $3.99.
Track ready.
Check.
Saltwater ready.
Check.
Go!
Fill up on fun with saltwater supercars at Shell. Participating sites, conditions apply. See shell.co.uk/saltwater supercars for details.
Strength and things. Strength and things. Strength and things. Strings and things. Strings and things and strings and things. Strings and things. Strings and things. Strings and things.
Now there's a whole range of strings and things called strings and things, including cheese strings, yollies, and new cheese shapes. Find them all in the cheese and yogurt aisle.
Strings and things.
At Tesco, we can pop our pasta in your Astra, our red Leicester in your Fiesta, or our mayo in your Mondeo. All you need to do is try Click and Collect. Just go to Tesco.com, order your shopping, then click and collect. With the minimum basket spend now only £25. And if you fancy something a little more exotic, we can even put our pad thai in your Qashqai. Try Click and Collect at Tesco.com. Every little helps. Selected larger stores. Booking charge may apply. See online for full terms and conditions.
Everyone wants a smooth running home so that they can spend more time enjoying it. The British Gas app allows you to do just that, because with the touch of a finger, you can quickly submit meter readings or book an expert engineer, leaving you more time for watering the borders or a spot of sunbathing. Manage your home account and more all in one place. Download the British Gas app from the App Store or Google Play today.
Chloe, is that you? Still lugging that old laptop round your lectures?
No, my name's not Chloe, it's Claire. No,
Clarissa. No one wants to be seen with an old laptop at uni. Ask Curry's PC World about a new one, like the stylish HP Envy with its light-in design. Only $749. Plus, save £100 more when you trade in your old qualifying laptop.
Nice new laptop, Chloe. Thanks. It's Chloe, like the goddess.
Save with instant trade-in at Curry's PC World. In-store only. See website for laptop trade-in qualifying criteria and evaluation.
Session fears are looming over Wall Street, but it's not all bad news. Consumer confidence remains high. The housing market getting a boost as mortgage rates continue to fall. Joining us now for a pulse check of the consumer is Brent Beardall. He's the president and CEO of Washington Federal Bank. Brent, it's good to see you again. And are you seeing any signs of a slowdown?
Kelly, great to be here. Actually, it's an interesting dichotomy that we're seeing. On the streets of our markets, we're seeing strength, right? Jobs are incredibly strong. Unemployment is low. You have a great amount of equity in homes. I think a report on CNBC this morning said there's $6 trillion in equity available to consumers today. So we're seeing strength with the consumer, but yet you have this flashing red light of the bond market. Right now, I think the 30-year bond is at 1.9%, a historic low in terms of yield.
Right, and people, you can tell us, they say that's, terrible formula for banks. I noticed also, by the way, an increase in HELOCs. We were talking about those the other day, home equity lines of credit. Why do you think people are taking those out?
I think people are taking advantage. The equity is back in the homes, and everybody is fearful, right? What is the bond market telling us? And I guess my biggest concern is that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, that we're so worried about a recession that we talk ourselves into a recession. We're not seeing a recession on the streets today.
Brent, I'm curious, there are a lot of people out there who are watching that 10-year yield fall, and right now we're at about 1.46%. Is there a line in the sand at which mortgage rates for the consumer won't go much lower?
A great question, and I think we may have seen that, right? The spreads in mortgages are widening out. So as the 10-year goes down, I think this morning we saw that the average mortgage last week was about 3.96%. So that spread is widening. And I don't think people have a lot of appetite to portfolio 30-year mortgages at a rate substantially below 4%, quite truthfully.
So if you're waiting for mortgage rates to drop more, don't wait, is what you're saying. They're not going to drop much further.
I think there's a lot of truth to that, and I think there's a lot of refi fatigue out there. I don't think consumers really care about an extra quarter point. It just doesn't make that much of a difference to them.
Brent, tell us about what low interest rates mean for your earnings power.
The good news for us is we've transitioned from a mortgage-dominated shop to a commercial bank. So low interest rates are actually opportunities for our commercial borrowers to lock in lower rates. Unfortunately, it's more pain for the depositor. You'll continue to see lower rates for the depositor.
Right,
but we have several levers we can pull.
So for you, though, are your short-term funding costs coming up relative to what you're able to make on some of those longer-term loans?
Short-term funding costs were going up with the Fed moving up, but we anticipate that there will be some delay, some lag, but we anticipate those will start going down thanks to the Fed moving and the decrease in interest rates.
Last quick question, Brent. You're talking about how strong the consumer seems when you take a look at what's going on Main Street. At the same time, there's all this talk about a flashing warning sign of a recession. Are you concerned at all about this notion of talking ourselves into a recession at this point?
Very much so. I think it's caused everyone to take pause. When someone's about to make a major purchase, they're asking themselves, Am I doing it at exactly the wrong time because what the bond market is showing? That there's real reason that we could talk ourselves into a recession. But the other thing I would point out, too, is not all recessions are equal, and we tend to have recency bias. We think of what the last recession was, which was a Great Recession, which, of course, was the biggest financial turmoil we've seen since the Great Depression. And in all likelihood, the next recession will be just that, a dip, and maybe not as bad as what we saw last time.
All right, Brent, let's hope so. Brent Beardall, Washington Federal, we appreciate it. Check, please, is next.
Why did you invest in gold?
Live big and spend less on the brands you adore, and dine by the waterside. Who could want more? Lap up the savings as much as the view with Ted Baker, Hackett, Nike, and Coach too. Lock Fine and Five Guys make it a date. You can shop, meet, and eat every weekday till late. So sit back, unwind, and let style lead the way. And give yourself a different day at Gunwharf Keys. Waterfront outlet shopping.
Make sure you're uni-ready with our huge range of practical essentials and home-from-home comforts and get 10% off for a limited time. T's and C's and exclusions apply. Dunelm, the home of homes.
At Tesco, we can pop our pasta in your Astra, our red Leicester in your Fiesta, or our mayo in your Mondeo. All you need to do is try click and collect. Just go to tesco.com, order your shopping, then click and collect. With the minimum basket spend now only £25. And if you fancy something a little more exotic, we can even put our pad thai in your Qashqai. Try click and collect at tesco.com. Every little helps. Selected larger stores. Booking charge may apply. See online for full terms and conditions.
Everyone wants a smooth running home so that they can spend more time enjoying it. The British Gas app allows you to do just that, because with the touch of a finger, you could quickly pay your bill or book in a boiler service, leaving you more time to fire up the barbecue or just relax with a good book. Manage your home account and more all in one place. Download the British Gas app from the App Store or Google Play today.
Chloe, is that you? Still lugging that old laptop round your lectures?
No, my name's not Chloe, it's Claire.
No one wants to be seen with an old laptop at uni. Ask Curry's PC World about a new one, like the stylish HP Envy with its light-in design. Only $749. Plus, save £100 more when you trade in your old qualifying laptop.
Nice new laptop, Chloe. Thanks. It's Chloe, like the goddess.
Save with instant trade-in at Curry's PC World. In-store only. See website for laptop trading qualifying criteria and valuation.
Point or two off of session highs at this point on both the Dow as well as the S&P 500. Inversion, schminversion. It's the